When Lily Walker saw the woman collapsed on the golden sand of La Jolla Cove, she never imagined that this moment of pure compassion would completely rewrite the script of her life. It was a typical San Diego evening, with the sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and the scent of fish tacos drifting from the nearby beachside restaurants, when the 28-year-old fashion designer interrupted her daily jog to help a stranger. Mango, her faithful canine companion, a golden retriever mix with expressive brown eyes that she'd found abandoned at the beach 2 years earlier, began barking frantically, as if her canine instincts sensed that this encounter would change everything for her owner. "Easy, Mango," Lily murmured, but the dog continued her agitation, running in circles around the woman lying in the sand. The stranger was clearly someone of means. Even unconscious, she exuded elegance. An impeccable beige linen dress, Italian leather sandals, a pearl necklace that caught the evening light, and a designer handbag that Lily recognized from fashion magazines. Her silver hair was styled in a sophisticated updo, and even while unconscious, she maintained a dignified posture. "Mom, can you hear me?" Lily knelt in the still, warm sand, ignoring the fact that her running shorts and tank top would certainly get sandy. With the first aid knowledge she'd learned from her volunteer work at the local community center, she checked the woman's pulse and noted that, although weak, it was beating steadily. The woman slowly opened her eyes, blinking against the light. Her eyes were an intense blue, full of intelligence, even in momentary confusion. What happened? "You're at La Jolla Cove, in San Diego. My name is Lily. I found you unconscious here on the sand. How do you feel? Should I call an ambulance?" "No, please." The woman's voice was cultured, with that refined Californian accent that spoke of excellent education. "I think it was just a dizzy spell. The heat, perhaps. I was walking and suddenly felt very lightheaded." Lily offered her water bottle, watching carefully as the woman took small sips. Mango approached cautiously, as if wanting to protect both women but maintaining a respectful distance. "Are you sure you don't want me to call someone?" "A family member." The woman smiled for the first time, and Lily was impressed by how that smile completely transformed her face. "How kind of you, dear. I'm Grace." She paused, studying Lily's face with growing interest. "Grace Turner. And you truly have a heart of gold, don't you?" "Anyone would do the same," Lily replied modestly, while helping Grace sit more comfortably in the sand. "It's the least someone can do when another person needs help." "Oh, my dear, you're mistaken. These days, many people would walk right past, pretending they didn't see anything." Grace's blue eyes sparkled with something that seemed like approval and, was that mischief? "Do you live here in San Diego?" "Born and raised here. I live with my roommate in Pacific Beach. I have a small swimwear boutique on the boardwalk, Ocean Dreams Swimwear. Nothing too fancy, but it's my dream come true." "Ocean Dreams," Grace murmured, as if the name meant something special. "What a fascinating coincidence." Before Lily could ask what that meant, they heard hurried footsteps in the sand. A man was approaching at a run, clearly in a state of panic. Tall, he must have been about 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out a light blue button-down shirt. Well, he had the kind of presence that made people turn to look. "Grandma!" "My God, I've been looking everywhere for you." The man knelt in the sand beside Grace, his hands trembling slightly as he checked if she was okay. "You just disappeared from the book club. When I realized you'd left, I nearly went crazy with worry." It was then that his eyes met Lily's, and for a moment time seemed suspended between the waves breaking on the beach and the wind swaying the palm trees. She recognized him instantly. That face was on the back cover of several books on her shelf. Eric Turner, better known by the pen name E.T. Rivers, the author whose works she devoured during long sleepless nights when his words were her only company. What she didn't imagine was that he also recognized her. Not as a reader of his books, but as the mysterious woman who frequented the same places he did for months. Barnes and Noble on Saturday afternoons, Café Luna on Sunday mornings, solitary walks on the beach at the end of the day. always with a book in hand, always with that shy but warm smile, always accompanied by the golden dog that now observed him with curiosity. "Eric, this is Lily." Grace made the introductions with a smile that definitely had something mischievous about it. "She saved me, literally. If it weren't for her, I'd still be unconscious in the sand. Thank you so much." Eric extended his hand, and when she touched his, both felt an electric current that had nothing to do with the ocean humidity. "I don't know how I can repay your kindness. My grandmother is, well, she's everything to me." Lily felt her face warm. It was a strange sensation being there, talking to her favorite author after helping his grandmother, as if the universe had conspired to create this impossible moment. "You don't need to repay anything," she managed to say, trying to keep her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Just take good care of her, and maybe convince her not to walk alone on the beach when the sun is so strong." Mango, who had observed the entire interaction with the seriousness of a very intelligent dog, approached Eric and began sniffing his shoes. After a thorough analysis, she wagged her tail in approval as if saying, "This human can stay." "Would you like to join us for dinner tomorrow?" Grace asked suddenly. "I insist. It's the least we can do after your kindness." Lily looked at Eric, who seemed surprised but pleased by the invitation. I wouldn't want to intrude on a family dinner." "You wouldn't be intruding," Eric said quickly. "Actually, it would be an honor." And so, without knowing she was about to discover secrets that would change everything, Lily accepted the invitation that would seal her destiny. The following evening, Lily stood in front of the Turner family estate in La Jolla, with Mango by her side and her heart beating like a drum. She had spent the last 24 hours rereading Tides of Destiny, Eric's latest book, making notes and preparing intelligent comments that she'd never be able to verbalize in front of him. "What do you think, Mango? Should I have stayed home organizing the boutique?" she whispered to the dog, who looked at her with that canine expression that seemed to say, "You're being ridiculous." The Turner home was a stunning Mediterranean-style villa overlooking the Pacific, with manicured gardens and a private path leading down to the beach. When Eric answered the door, Lily had to catch her breath. He was wearing dark jeans and a white linen shirt that made his green eyes even more striking. "Lily! I'm so glad you came." His smile was genuine and warm. "And Mango too, of course. We have a big backyard. She'll love it." The interior of the house was elegant but welcoming, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking ocean views and comfortable furniture that invited relaxation rather than intimidation. "Lily dear," Grace appeared, radiant in a flowing turquoise dress that complemented her blue eyes. "How wonderful that you came. Come meet everyone." The living room was filled with warmth and the sound of animated conversation. Grace introduced her to Robert and Helen Turner, Eric's parents. Robert, with his distinguished silver hair and businesslike demeanor, Helen with her artist's eye and welcoming smile. "So you're the angel who helped my mother-in-law," Helen said, embracing Lily warmly. "We can't thank you enough. Please, anyone would have done the same." "That's not true," Robert interjected, shaking her hand firmly. "Good Samaritans are rarer than you think these days. We're grateful you were there." During dinner, grilled Pacific salmon with locally sourced vegetables served on a terrace overlooking the ocean, the conversation flowed easily. The Turners were cultured and well-traveled, but they made Lily feel included rather than out of place. They asked about her business, her life in San Diego, and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. "A swimwear boutique," Helen mused. "How exciting! Do you design the pieces yourself?" "Most of them, yes. I studied fashion design at FIDM, and I've always been passionate about creating pieces that make women feel confident and beautiful." "That's wonderful," Grace smiled. "Following your passion takes courage." Eric had been relatively quiet during dinner, but Lily caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. When Grace suggested they take a walk on the beach after dinner, he immediately offered to accompany them. The private beach was pristine with soft sand and gentle waves. Mango ran ahead, chasing seagulls and clearly loving the freedom of the large space. "Your family is wonderful," Lily told Eric as they walked side by side, their feet sinking into the cool sand. "They are, and they clearly adore you already." He paused, running a hand through his hair in a gesture she was beginning to recognize. "Lily, can I ask you something?" "Of course. What do you do when you're not reading or working?" She laughed. "Well, I volunteer at the community center. I surf when the waves are good. I take mango hiking in Torrey Pines. A pretty simple life, actually. Simple but meaningful." They walked in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the waves and watching the moon reflect on the water. "Can I confess something?" Eric said suddenly. "Sure. I've noticed you before. At the beach, at Barnes & Noble, at Café Luna. I always wanted to strike up a conversation but never had the courage." Lily looked at him, surprised. "Really? Why?" "Because you always seemed so complete, independent, like you didn't need anyone else to be happy. And that's bad. No, it's admirable, but also intimidating for a guy who spends more time with fictional characters than real people." Lily smiled, feeling a wave of tenderness. "For your information, I had noticed you too, and I also never had the courage to say anything." "Really? Really? You always seemed so unreachable." They laughed, recognizing the irony of the situation. Two shy people who observed each other from a distance, needing chance and Grace's interference to finally meet. "Lily," Grace called from the terrace, "come have some coffee with us. I made my famous chocolate chip cookies." "You want to?" Eric asked. She looked around the beautiful beach once more, then at the man beside her, and felt she was about to cross an invisible line. "Yes, but only if Mango can have a cookie too." "Of course. Actually, I think my grandmother is already planning to adopt her." They walked back together, and Lily could imagine that this evening was just the beginning of a journey that would test everything she believed about love, family, and her own worth. 3 weeks after dinner at the Turner estate, Lily found herself in a situation she never imagined living. She was being courted by the most talented writer in San Diego, and the entire beach community was beginning to notice. Eric appeared at her boutique almost every day, always with a different excuse. He wanted to buy a gift for his sister, needed advice about colors for presents, or simply stopped by the nearby coffee shop and coincidentally ran into her. "Lily, this man is in love with you," said Madison, her best friend and boutique employee, while watching Eric approach along the boardwalk. "Look how differently he walks when he comes here." "Don't exaggerate, Madison. We're just friends." "Friends? Honey, I saw how you two looked at each other at Sunday brunch. When he told that story about the seagull that inspired one of his characters, you laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. It really was funny. And when you explained how you design your pieces, he looked at you like you were a work of art." Lily felt her face heat up. It was true that she felt something special for Eric, but there was also something that troubled her. Since they'd begun getting to know each other better, she noticed that he always changed the subject when talk involved money or business. When she mentioned needing a loan to expand the boutique, he became uncomfortable and changed topics. "Hi, Lily." Eric entered the boutique with that smile that made her forget to breathe. "How's your day going?" "Pretty busy. I got a large order from a new resort opening in Coronado." "That's great. Your career is taking off." "It is, but it's also giving me headaches," she sighed. "I need to hire another seamstress and buy new equipment, but the bank is being difficult with the loan." Eric opened his mouth as if to say something, but controlled himself. "I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're very determined." Madison observed the interaction and frowned. Why wasn't Eric offering help? As a successful writer, he certainly had the financial means to help, or at least contacts who could make things easier for Lily. "Listen," said Eric, changing the subject, "my family is organizing a special lunch on Sunday. My brother James is coming from Los Angeles with his wife and kids. I'd like you to meet them." "Of course, I'd love to." "Great. Oh, and it's kind of a formal lunch. The whole family will be there." Something in his tone put her on alert. "Formal how?" "Nothing too much. Just, You know, my family has some traditional habits. Lily nodded, but a hint of apprehension settled in her chest. Since she'd started frequenting the Turner home, she noticed certain subtleties that made her uncomfortable. The house was beautiful, but clearly expensive to maintain. Robert casually talked about international trips. Helen wore jewelry that seemed valuable, and family friends mentioned million-dollar contracts as if they were trivial. On Sunday, Lily took extra care with her appearance. She wore her most elegant dress, a piece she'd created herself, in navy blue fabric with lace details. Mango stayed home, as the lunch really seemed to be a more serious event. When she arrived at the estate, she found several cars parked in front, a BMW, a Mercedes, and even a car with diplomatic plates. Her stomach contracted. "Lily," Grace greeted her at the door, radiant. "What a beautiful dress. Did you make it?" "Yes, thank you. Come meet the rest of the family." The living room was full. James Turner was an older version of Eric, but with a more pronounced executive air. His wife, Patricia, was elegant and polished, and their twin daughters, aged 16, were articulate and confident in a way that only young people raised in privileged environments could be. "Pleasure to meet you," said James, shaking her hand. "Eric won't stop talking about you. I imagine he exaggerates." "He doesn't exaggerate at all," Patricia smiled. "It's rare to see my brother-in-law so enthusiastic about someone." During lunch, Lily observed the family dynamics. The conversation flowed between business, literature, politics, and international travel. Robert casually mentioned a meeting with German publishers. A family friend talked about an invitation to speak at Oxford, and James commented about the company's expansion to other countries. "And you, Lily?" asked Patricia. "Do you plan to expand your business too?" "Well, I have plans to grow, but for now, I'm focused on the local market." "Very smart. It's always better to consolidate first before taking bigger flights." James seemed to approve. "Eric told us you have a swimwear boutique. Must be an interesting market here in the region." "It is. San Diego gets many tourists and swimwear always has demand." "And you started alone?" asked Helen. "Yes, I started selling pieces I made at home, then managed to rent a small shop. Now I'm trying to grow a bit more." There was a moment of silence that seemed significant. Lily felt like she was being evaluated, and the sensation wasn't comfortable. "Well," said Robert, raising his glass, "a toast to new businesses and new relationships." Everyone toasted, but Lily noticed meaningful looks exchanged between family members. There was something unspoken in the air, a subtle tension she couldn't identify. After lunch, Eric walked her to her car. "Thank you for coming. I know my family can be a bit intense." "They're wonderful, very welcoming." "Lily, He hesitated. "There's something I need to tell you." Her heart raced. "What is it?" But before he could answer, James appeared. "Eric, I need to talk to you about the publishing contracts. It's urgent." "Now?" "Yes, now." Eric looked at Lily, clearly frustrated. "I'm sorry. Can we talk tomorrow?" "Of course." As she drove home, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she'd missed something important, and that when she discovered what it was, her life would change completely. Monday morning arrived with that kind of anxiety that makes your stomach churn and your heart beat irregularly. Lily tried to focus on work. She had an important order of bikinis for a boutique hotel in La Jolla, but her mind kept returning to the interrupted conversation with Eric. What kind of secret does someone consider important enough to create so much nervousness? The possibilities spun in her head. Maybe he was married, or had children, or was sick. Each scenario she imagined was worse than the last. "You've been sewing the same piece for half an hour," observed Madison, looking up from a sales spreadsheet. "And you've redone that seam 3 times. I'm concentrating. You're anxious. There's a difference." Madison approached and held her friend's hands. "What happened yesterday at lunch?" Lily sighed and told her about the strange atmosphere, the conversations about international business, the feeling of being evaluated, and especially about what Eric wanted to tell her. "Maybe it's something simple," Madison tried to reassure her. "Maybe he just wants to make it official that you're dating." With that expression of someone about to confess they killed someone. "No, Madison. It was something serious. It was then that they heard the boutique's bell ring. Lily looked at the door and saw a man in a suit entering, clearly not the typical customer for her swimwear boutique. "Good morning. I'm looking for Lily Walker." "That's me. How can I help you?" "My name is David Martinez. I'm Commercial Director of Turner Publishing House. I'd like to speak with you about a business proposal." The floor seemed to move under Lily's feet. Turner Publishing House. She had seen that name on the spine of several books on her shelf, but had never connected it with Eric's family. "What kind of proposal?" "We're launching a line of licensed products based on the books by our most successful author, E.T. Rivers. Swimwear, accessories, lifestyle items. We'd like your boutique to be our exclusive partner in the region." Lily sat heavily in the chair behind the counter. Madison watched her with a worried expression. "It's a very generous proposal," the man continued, handing her a folder with documents, "including capital advance for production expansion, national marketing, distribution in major chains. Frankly, it would be a transformative opportunity for your business." "Why did you choose my boutique?" Lily asked, though deep down she already knew the answer. "Well, the recommendation came from E.T. Rivers himself. He specifically suggested your company." "E.T. Rivers knows me?" The man seemed confused. "Well, we assumed so, since you two—" "Wait, don't you know who E.T. Rivers is?" "Yes, he's a writer. I've read all his books." "Ah." David seemed visibly uncomfortable. "Perhaps I should let him explain the details himself. He asked us to schedule a meeting this afternoon, if you agree." After the man left, Lily was alone with Madison in the boutique, trying to process what had happened. "This is about Eric, isn't it?" Madison asked gently. "It has to be. But why is he offering business opportunities without talking to me first? And why did that man seem surprised when I said I didn't know E.T. Rivers personally? Maybe because you do know him personally. Maybe that's the secret he wants to tell." At 3 in the afternoon, Eric arrived at the boutique. He looked nervous and determined, like someone who had finally decided to face a difficult situation. "Lily, did you receive David's visit?" "I did. And now I'm more confused than ever. Can we talk privately? There's a cafe around the corner." "No, I want us to talk here. Madison is my best friend and business partner. She can listen." Eric hesitated but nodded. "All right. Lily, what I'm going to tell you will change everything between us, and I need you to understand that I tried to tell you before, but never found the right moment." Her heart raced. "Just tell me. Remember when you asked why I never offered financial help when you mentioned your difficulties with bank loans? Yes, it's because I was trying to make sure you liked me for who I am, not for what I have." He took a deep breath. "My family, we're not just well off, Lily. We're very rich indeed." She frowned, trying to understand where he was going. "Turner Publishing House isn't just a successful family business. It's an international publishing empire. We publish authors in 10 countries, have million-dollar contracts with streaming services, film agreements, global licensing. The family fortune is valued in the hundreds of millions." Her world began to spin. "You're saying that—" "I'm saying a millionaire, Lily, that my family is among the richest in California, and that I was afraid this would change how you see me." Madison discreetly held Lily's arm, noticing her friend had paled. "That's why you always changed the subject when I talked about money?" Lily asked in a weak voice. "Yes, and that's why I offered this partnership through the publishing house. I wanted to help your business without you feeling like you were receiving charity from your rich boyfriend. But why hide this from me? Why not trust me from the beginning?" Eric approached, but she stepped back. "Because it's happened before, Lily. Women who were interested in me only for the money. Women who changed completely when they found out about my financial situation. You think him that shallow? No, of course not. It's exactly the opposite." He ran his hands through his hair. "Desperate. It's that I fell in love with how you made me feel normal. For the first time in years, I found someone who laughed at my jokes because they found them funny, not because I had money. Someone who discussed literature with me as an equal, who challenged me intellectually. You lied to me." "I didn't lie. I just omitted part of the truth. It's the same thing. Lily felt tears beginning to form in her eyes. You decided for me what I should or shouldn't know. You decided I wasn't trustworthy enough to handle the truth about who you really are. Lily, please, try to understand. Understand what? That you doubted me so much that you preferred to create an edited version of yourself. She shook her head, feeling a mixture of anger and deep hurt. Do you know what this really changes? What? It changes because now I know that the man I fell in love with doesn't trust me, and if there's no trust, Eric, there's no foundation for any relationship. Lily, I trust you. That's exactly why I'm telling you now. You're telling me after weeks of lying. You're telling me after I was embarrassed by not knowing something your whole family obviously expected me to know. Tears began to flow down her face. Yesterday, at lunch, I felt like I was being evaluated according to criteria I didn't understand. Now I understand why. The publishing house proposal is legitimate, Eric tried. You have real talent. Your boutique has potential. And how will I know now if it's based on merit or pity? How will I know if any success I have from now on is mine or a consolation gift from my millionaire boyfriend? Madison, who had watched the entire conversation in silence, finally spoke up. Maybe you should talk when you're both calmer. Emotions are running too high right now. No, Madison, there's nothing to talk about. Lily wiped her eyes and looked directly at Eric. I need time to think. And you need to decide if you want a relationship based on honesty or edited versions of the truth. And the publishing house proposal? She picked up the folder of documents that David had left. He'll analyze it like any other business proposal, based purely on merit, not feelings. Lily, please leave now. I need to process all of this. After Eric left, Lily sat in the chair and finally allowed all the emotion to surface. Madison hugged her in silence, letting her cry out all the confusion, hurt, and sense of betrayal she felt. You know what hurts the most? Lily murmured through her tears. What? It's that I really fell in love with him, with the gentle, intelligent, and shy man I met. And now I've discovered that man doesn't completely exist. He was just an edited version of the truth. That night, alone at home with Mango sleeping at her feet, Lily looked out the window at the ocean and wondered if it was possible to truly love someone when the foundation of that love had been built on omissions and distrust. And if, even though Eric had his reasons for hiding the truth, a relationship could survive when one partner unilaterally decided what the other should or shouldn't know about their life. The answer, at least in that moment, seemed to be no. 8 months later, Lily stood on the deck of her new boutique, 3 times larger than the previous one, located in a prime spot on the La Jolla boardwalk, watching the growing crowd of tourists who came specifically looking for Ocean Dreams by Lily Walker creations. The partnership with Turner Publishing House had proven to be an extraordinary success. The product line inspired by E.T. Rivers Books wasn't just successful throughout Southern California, but had also sparked interest from international buyers. Her small local boutique had transformed into a nationally recognized brand. Mango dozed in the sun beside her chair, more lazy and satisfied than ever. The dog had perfectly adapted to the busier routine of the new boutique and had become a sort of unofficial mascot for the business. The last quarter's sales report arrived, Madison announced, coming out of the boutique with a folder in hand and a radiant smile. You won't believe the numbers. Good or bad? Lily, you've officially become a successful entrepreneur. Profits have tripled compared to last year. Lily smiled, but there was a hint of melancholy in her expression. Professional success had come exactly as she'd dreamed, but not in the way she'd imagined. And there was an emptiness in her life that all the money in the world couldn't fill. As for Eric, well, that was a more complicated story. In the first 2 months after the revelation and argument, they barely spoke. He respected her request for space, communicating only through publishing house representatives when necessary for business matters. But Grace hadn't given up so easily. The Turner matriarch appeared at Lily Boutique at least twice a week, always with a different excuse. She wanted to buy gifts for friends, needed advice about clothes for social events, or simply wanted to chat with her favorite young woman. And invariably, the conversation ended up being about Eric. "That boy is wasting away," Grace had said the previous week, while trying on a caftan that Lily had created especially for mature women. "He doesn't write properly, doesn't eat properly, walks around the house like a lost soul." "That's not my responsibility, Mrs. Turner." "Of course it is, dear. You love each other, and true love doesn't disappear because of misunderstandings." They weren't misunderstandings. They were deliberate omissions. And have you never omitted anything in your life? Never kept secrets for fear of being judged or rejected? The question had echoed in Lily's mind for days. Because if she was honest with herself, she had also hidden things. She had hidden the depth of her feelings for Eric, for fear of seeming needy. She had hidden her insecurities about not being good enough for him, out of pride. She had hidden how much her opinion of herself depended on her financial independence. The turning point came when she heard a song on the radio, a romantic and melancholic ballad that talked about forgiveness, second chances, and the regret of letting pride destroy true love. Lily heard the song while working and couldn't stop crying because every verse seemed to have been written about her situation with Eric. And when she researched later, she discovered that the inspiration for the lyrics had been exactly that, the interrupted love story between a writer and the woman his whole family had learned to love. That night, for the first time in months, Lily allowed herself to question whether pride was really worth more than happiness. The next morning, a Thursday, she did something she hadn't done in months. She showed up at the La Jolla Library at book club time. The room was exactly as she remembered, but there were fewer people than before. Eric was there, leading the discussion about a new contemporary novel, but he looked dejected, thinner, with those dark circles that betray sleepless nights. When he saw her enter, he almost dropped his notes. The expression of pure shock on his face was quickly replaced by something between hope and fear. "Sorry I'm late," Lily said casually, sitting in her usual chair next to Grace, who smiled as if she knew something the others didn't. The meeting proceeded normally, but there was electric tension in the air. Lily participated in the discussions as she always did, and Eric conducted the debate with his usual competence, but their eyes met constantly, charged with unspoken things. When everyone left, they were alone in the room, surrounded by the heavy silence of months of hurt and longing. "Lily, Eric began. "Let me speak first," she interrupted him. "I've spent the last months thinking about what you told me, about what happened between us, and I realized some important things." "Like what?" "I realized you were right about one thing. I was also testing you. I was testing whether you loved me enough to trust me with the complete truth about your life. And when you failed that test, I used it as an excuse to run away." Eric approached carefully. "Why run away?" "Because I was also afraid." Lily took a deep breath, deciding to be completely honest. "Afraid of not being good enough for you, for your family, for your world. When I found out about the money, it was easier to be angry about the lie than admit I felt intimidated by the difference between us. You're more than good enough. You're extraordinary. I'm not perfect, Eric. I'm stubborn, proud, and sometimes I run from problems instead of facing them head on." She smiled timidly. "But I'm trying to be better, and I'm here because I love you. Not for what you have, but for who you are. For the man who writes stories that touch the soul, who takes care of his grandmother with tenderness, who gets nervous when he likes someone. Lily, and if you still want to try, I do too. But this time, with complete honesty between us. No omissions, no fears, no tests, just truth." Eric kissed her then, right there in the library room where it all began, a kiss that spoke of forgiveness, new beginnings, and love mature enough to survive mistakes and grow from them. Epilogue. Back to the present. 8 months after that new beginning, they were planning their wedding. It would be on the beach where they met, a simple ceremony with family and close friends. Mango would be the ring bearer, with a special pillow tied around her neck. Lily smiled, returning to the present when she saw Eric approaching along the boardwalk. He was coming from his meeting with British publishers who wanted to adapt his books for a television series, but still found time to visit her every day at the boutique. "How was the meeting?" she asked when he leaned down to kiss her. "Better than expected. They loved the trilogy proposal." He sat in the chair beside her. "But it wasn't the best part of my day." "What was?" "This here, coming to see you, telling you about everything that happened, hearing about your day, planning our future together." He took her hand and played with the engagement ring he'd placed there 3 weeks before. "By the way, Mom called. She wants to know if we've decided on the flowers for the wedding." "I'm still between white roses and lilies." "Mango prefers the roses. She sniffed both options and clearly has a preference." They laughed, watching the dog, who had woken up upon hearing her name and now observed them with that canine expression of total approval. The wedding would be on the beach where they met, a simple ceremony with family and close friends. Mango would be the ring bearer, with a special little pillow that Lily had sewn personally. "You know what else I'm excited about?" Lily said, resting her head on his shoulder. "What?" "Starting to write our own story. Together. This time, without omissions." "Our story is going to be epic," Eric murmured, kissing the top of her head. "It'll have everything, romance, adventure, some dramatic conflicts to keep it interesting, but always with a happy ending. Always. Always." "Because I found my perfect co-author?" Lily turned to kiss him, knowing she had found not just the love of her life, but also her best friend, her partner in all adventures, her companion for all the chapters yet to come. And when Mango got up, stretched, and walked over to them for attention, because after all, every good love story needs a canine mascot, Lily knew that all the choices she had made, all the mistakes she had committed, all the fears she had faced, had been worth it. 6 months later, on a perfect San Diego morning, with the Pacific breeze carrying the scent of jasmine from Grace's garden, Lily stood in the bridal suite of the La Jolla Beach and Tennis Club, adjusting the final details of her wedding dress, a stunning creation of her own design, combining classic elegance with bohemian beach elements that perfectly captured her personality. "You look absolutely radiant," Madison said, tears threatening to ruin her carefully applied makeup as she helped secure Lily's veil. "I can't believe my best friend is marrying a best-selling author. It's like something out of a romance novel." "Sometimes reality is better than fiction," Lily replied, smoothing down the flowing silk skirt that would dance beautifully in the ocean breeze. Grace entered the suite, resplendent in a lavender mother-of-the-groom dress, carrying a small velvet box. "My dear, I have something for you. It's a family tradition." Inside the box was a delicate pearl bracelet, clearly an antique of considerable value and sentiment. This belonged to Eric's great-grandmother, who came to California during the gold rush with nothing but hope and determination. "She built a life here, just like you're doing." As Grace fastened the bracelet around Lily's wrist, she whispered, "She would have loved you, dear. You have the same strength, the same independence, the same generous heart." Meanwhile, on the beach below, Eric stood under an arch of white roses and eucalyptus, his hands nervously adjusting his tie as he watched the Pacific waves roll gently onto the shore. The intimate gathering of 50 guests included family, close friends, and several of Lily's regular customers who had become like family over the years. James served as best man, while their teenage daughters scattered rose petals along the aisle, marked in the sand. Robert and Helen sat in the front row, beaming with pride at their son who had finally found his perfect match. The ceremony began as a string quartet played Pachelbel's canon, and Lily appeared at the top of the beach stairs, looking like a vision in her flowing gown. But what took Eric's breath away wasn't just her beauty. It was the radiant joy in her eyes, the confidence in her step, the way she seemed to float toward him as if this moment was always meant to be. Mango, wearing a flower crown and carrying the rings in a small satin pouch, trotted down the aisle to enthusiastic applause and laughter from the guests. She performed her duties perfectly, sitting obediently beside the officiant throughout the ceremony. "Do you, Eric Thomas Turner, take Lily Marie Walker to be your wife?" asked their friend Pastor Michael, who had known Eric since childhood. "I do," Eric replied, his voice strong and clear despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "I promise to trust you with all my truths, to support your dreams as passionately as you support mine, and to love you not despite our differences, but because of how they make us stronger together." "And do you, Lily Marie Walker, take Eric Thomas Turner to be your husband?" "I do," Lily said, squeezing his hands. "I promise to believe in us, even when things get complicated, to build our future on honesty and respect, and to love you not for what you have, but for who you are, the man who sees magic in everyday moments and helps me see it too." As they exchanged rings, simple platinum bands engraved with coordinates marking the exact spot where they first met, the Pacific sunset painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, as if nature itself was celebrating their union. "You may kiss your bride," Pastor Michael announced, and when Eric and Lily's lips met, the small crowd erupted in cheers that mixed with the sound of crashing waves and Mango's excited barking. The reception took place on the Turner Estate's terrace, transformed into a magical garden party with string lights, flowing curtains, and tables adorned with locally sourced flowers. Lily had insisted on keeping everything elegant but unpretentious, much like their relationship itself. During the father-daughter dance with her dad, a hard-working contractor who had initially been intimidated by the Turner wealth but was quickly won over by their genuine warmth, Lily reflected on how much her life had changed. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart," her father whispered as they swayed to "At Last" by Etta James. "You stayed true to yourself through all of this. That takes real character." "I learned from the best," she replied, thinking of how her parents' solid, honest marriage had given her the foundation to recognize real love when she found it. Later, as Eric spun her around the dance floor during their first dance as husband and wife, Lily looked around at the faces of everyone they loved. Grace beaming with satisfaction at her successful matchmaking, Madison laughing with James about some shared joke, her parents deep in conversation with Robert and Helen about their upcoming grandparent status, though Mango would have to suffice for now. "Any regrets?" Eric murmured against her ear as they moved together to John Legend's "All of Me." "Only one," Lily replied, pulling back to look into his eyes. "I wish we'd had the courage to talk to each other years ago. Think of all the time we wasted being shy." "No time wasted," Eric said firmly. "We weren't ready for each other then. We needed to become who we are now. You needed to build your dreams. I needed to learn that vulnerability isn't weakness. We found each other exactly when we were supposed to." As the evening progressed, toasts were made that brought both laughter and tears. Grace told the story of finding her granddaughter of the heart on that fateful day at the beach. Madison roasted Lily's terrible cooking skills, but praised her enormous heart. James welcomed Lily to the family with genuine warmth, noting how Eric's writing had improved dramatically since meeting her. His characters finally learned what real love looks like. But the most touching moment came when Eric stood to make his own toast. "A year ago, I thought I knew what love was. I wrote about it after all. But I was describing shadows on a cave wall, never having seen the real thing. Lily didn't just change my life. She helped me understand what life is actually for. It's not for accumulating success or hiding behind walls of protection. It's for finding that one person who sees all of you, the good, the bad, the scared parts you try to hide, and chooses to stay anyway." He raised his glass toward his new wife. "To Lily, who saved my grandmother, stole my heart, and taught me that the best stories aren't the ones we write alone." As the night wound down and guests began to depart, Eric and Lily found themselves alone on the beach, shoes kicked off, her dress hiked up as they walked hand in hand along the water's edge. Mango ran ahead, chasing hermit crabs, and clearly exhausted from all the excitement, but refusing to miss a moment. "So, Mrs. Turner," Eric said, stopping to pull her into his arms, "what's our next chapter going to be about?" "Well, Mr. Turner," Lily replied, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him, I think it's going to be about two people who learn that love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Above them, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky, and the lights of San Diego twinkled in the distance like earthbound constellations. The Pacific whispered its eternal rhythm against the shore, the same sound that had been the soundtrack to their first meeting and would now accompany their first night as husband and wife. "You know what I love most about our story," Lily said, as they made their way back toward the house, where their new life together would begin. "What's that?" "It started with me helping someone who needed it, without expecting anything in return. And it led to everything I never knew I wanted." "Karma," Eric agreed, spinning her around one more time in the sand. "Or fate. Or just the universe's way of rewarding good hearts." "Whatever it was," Lily laughed, her joy echoing across the water. "Grateful." And as they walked up the beach together, with Mango trotting contentedly behind them and their whole future stretching out like an unwritten book, both Eric and Lily knew that while this was the end of their beginning, it was also the beginning of their forever. Some love stories start with grand gestures or dramatic meetings, but the best ones, the ones that last, start with simple kindness, grow through honest communication, and flourish when two people choose to trust each other with their authentic selves. In the distance, the lighthouse at Point Loma sent its beams sweeping across the Pacific, guiding travelers safely home. And in that beam of light, Eric and Lily Turner began the greatest adventure of all, a lifetime of choosing love every single day.